In three, two, one. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Real Time Talk with Eagle 3D Streaming. My name is Quentin Anderson, and today we have a very special guest with us. Sarah from TensorWorks is going to be going over something that they are working on called Scalable Pixel Streaming. Sarah, how are you doing today?
Great, Quentin. Love being up this early in the morning in Cairns.
I know. You're around the globe right now, and thank you so much for getting up early for us. We sincerely appreciate you being on the show.
An absolute pleasure.
Wonderful. For those of you who are not familiar with the format of the show, it is a live show, which means that questions are highly encouraged. So please feel free to drop a question into the chat, and we will try to get the best possible answer for you. To briefly introduce our guest, Sarah is the product owner of Scalable Pixel Streaming, TensorWorks solution for deploying pixel streaming applications at scale in the cloud. So this, as we all know, is going to be a very awesome discussion. But before we talk about SPS, there was, of course, Sarah working on things before that. So could you maybe share us a little bit about your story and how you got to TensorWorks?
Yeah, for sure. So my background is not actually in IT at all. So what I went to university for and what I did my PhD in is actually psychology. So I spent 8 long years learning all about people, what makes them tick, what makes them interesting. My PhD was actually in like cognitive perception science. So I did a lot of research involving like EEG, EMG, looking at the way we have like bodily responses to other people. And I finished my PhD in 2020, which, as everyone knows, is a pretty good year to remain like in lockdown. So, so coming out of this like 8 years of formalized education and being like, okay, I had been planning on like moving away from obviously Cairns, where I've lived for my entire life, to pursue psychology elsewhere. But like the timing wasn't right. And yeah, I knew the guys that started TensorWorks, so the four directors, Aidan, Luke, Nick, and Adam, had just started TensorWorks. They were looking for someone to come on board and help manage the business side of the house. Obviously, my background, having like a psychology, a people-centered background, it was like pretty good fit. So yeah, came on board, absolutely loved putting a business hat on. Not something I thought I would go into after doing that many years of psych, but it's actually come in handy to have that background anyway. So that's a brief look at my background in psych and yeah, how I arrived at TensorWorks when I did.
So and now that you know you're part of the TensorWorks family and life is great, do you find the business more interesting or the pixel streaming more interesting or Unreal Engine or all the above or what are some of your favorite things?
Yeah, great question. So for me, I love the business side of the house. I love growing our team. I love looking at like what we can do in the future, what sort of clients we can work with, how we can like continue to expand as TensorWorks. But the other side of the house that I really love is, as you know, product owner of Scalable Pixel Streaming, and like how I came to have that role, not having a technical background myself, is a real interest in supporting the customers that want to use pixel streaming. So understanding a bit more about why they want to use scalable pixel streaming as opposed to reference implementation of pixel streaming, what it is that a customer is looking to do at scale in the cloud, and basically just wanting to understand everything about a customer use case for our product and how we can use that use case to help make it a better product that services the needs of more and more customers.
Hmm. And do you think that, and I know the PhD is coming in handy, especially on the people side, do you think it also just helps to prepare someone to have the, I guess, cognitive ability to really like understand, or would you consider pixel streaming technical, or is it just kind of like, um,
Yeah, I think that like having a research background has definitely helped me to have, first of all, just like a more like analytical mindset, trying to break things down basically when I hear about them, as opposed to just accepting things at face value. And yeah, I'd definitely say it's technical. There are lots of pieces to it that I myself don't understand all of the intricacies of. And there are like people on our team that are considered the world experts in like container technology and stuff like that. So really fortunate to be able to work alongside some of these people that obviously do have this expertise. And yeah, it's definitely technical, but there's enough understanding, I guess, from my side of the house that I can deliver what the value propositions are to our customers and to work with them to help it meet their use case.
Cool, cool. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one that feels like pixel streaming is a little technical.
A
But
lot.
yeah, for sure. But let's talk about SPS. So what is it? What is SPS?
Yeah, so TensorWorks built SPS. So we collaborate with Epic Games on the reference implementation of pixel streaming. So what we were seeing was we were making all these improvements to the reference implementation of pixel streaming, but that's largely supporting the like one-to-one use case. What we were getting via like our Discord and via our emails was a lot of people being like, this is really great, but can we have it at scale? So we got enough of these emails over the course of a few months, and we were like, seems like there might be a product here. So what we did was we like re-architected it from the ground up to use the power of containers and Kubernetes to try to make it lightweight, portable, so it can be used on multiple different cloud providers. And basically what it does is it takes your Unreal application and allows you to stream it in a given cloud provider. So basically it abstracts away all of that technical complexity associated with pixel streaming that maybe a user might not want to like configure themselves, particularly the stuff around like WebRTC, stun, turn, all those sorts of things that have quite a high level of technical complexity, and it allows you like a customer to just focus on optimizing their application for use with pixel streaming, and then we'll handle the rest.
And as a product owner of SPS, what does that mean? What does when you're successful at your position, what have you done, or what is a product owner?
Yeah. So at TensorWorks, a product owner is someone that can balance the high level vision between what a customer wants and what future customers are asking for in terms of like supporting whether it's like multi-cloud or like different feature requests and stuff like that. So balancing that with the like constraints available in the technology as it stands as well. So trying to have that high level picture on what will make this product to be the best possible product. So whether that be like supporting a new feature like multi-region dashboarding or something like that, versus being able to support multiple customers to be able to do what it is they want their application to do.
And I know, especially when we're thinking about scaling pixel streaming, the word multi comes up quite often. So what's a multi-region? And what's a multi-cloud? Or why would I have multiple regions when I'm scaling pixel streaming?
Yeah, so what we found is particularly on AWS, which has so many regions across the globe, currently our customers have to set up each of the regions manually. So they could have some of their applications deployed in North America, some deployed in Europe, some in Australia, but they have to currently manage each of those regions separately. So each of them has their own standalone stacks, so to speak. High level dream, particularly for like a customer wanting to just have a seamless deployment experience, is to be able to support multi-region where there's one control cluster, and basically they use that from within a dashboard, and they can say, this is my application, I want it served out to these regions, and then have like the region configuration set up and deployment all handled from within a single space, really giving them better visibility over the whole like global deployment, so to speak.
And are we doing multiple regions because is it like a GPU availability thing, or is it a latency thing, or both, or why shouldn't I just put all my GPUs in one region for it to be easier, or what's the benefit?
Yeah, for sure. So all of the above, basically. So let's say that you have users scattered all over the globe. The best best scenario for them is to have GPUs located in the region that they're located for the optimal like latency and streaming experience. So the multi-region dashboarding experience would allow you to have a single point of control. You can have that do the load balancing for you. It'll have every time a new user connects, they'll be connected to the optimal node for their use case.
Got it. And then I heard you also mention multi-cloud. So what does that mean? Is there a reason why we're using one cloud over the other, or it just depends on whatever, or does a client typically have a cloud that they prefer, or why multiple clouds?
Yeah, so a client typically has a cloud provider they're quite locked to, and currently Scalable Pixel Streaming only supports 2 clouds. So AWS is the first cloud, and we targeted AWS because of that global reach, just to enable people from all over the globe to get started with Scalable Pixel Streaming. But the other cloud provider we've partnered with is called CoreWeave, and they're a North America specific cloud provider, but they're a little different to the other public cloud offerings, basically, where they've built their cluster as a bare metal Kubernetes cluster. It has very fast spin-up times. It's a GPU-specific cloud, so basically they're looking for people wanting to do cool stuff in GPUs in the cloud, like Pixel Streaming. So that's the 2 clouds that we've targeted today. And typically, a customer is looking for a multi-cloud experience because of resource availability. So basically, maybe they can't get enough resources on a given cloud provider, so they need to like complement their offering with another cloud provider so that they have enough cloud GPU resources to be able to service all of their customers, particularly if they're trying to work at very large scales.
Right. Yeah. And I blame all the AI stuff for the reason why we can't find any GPUs right now. So another term that I heard you mention is spin up. And so what is, or when I think of spin up, I think of maybe loading time. So is how important is loading time, in some of the solutions you're working with on your customers, or do they care about loading time, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. Some of the customers that we have like care about it less. They're sort of happy at this stage for customers to need to wait to get in to access their instance. Whereas other customers, it's like a complete deal breaker if it takes like a long time to load in. So they're looking for basically as fast a load time as you can get. And like on CoreWeave, as I mentioned, they are a bare metal cloud provider. It's like super fast. They have caching as well. So that way once an instance has been like accessed one time, it's faster on all subsequent accesses. But on, say, a cloud provider like AWS, currently each new person trying to like join, it'll create a new application instance for that person. It needs to wait for the VM worker node to be provisioned. It then assigns that instance to that node. Then it's up and running basically for a user. So that can take in the order of like minutes, depending on the type of like node that you're trying to connect to. And that sort of like usage time just isn't going to work, particularly if you've got like a rather large like application. So you've got to factor in like application load time as well. So the only way to get around that sort of lengthy waiting time for these customers is to go down the over provisioning route. Currently, Scalable Pixel Streaming like supports node over provisioning. So basically, you can have the instances of the AWS VMs ready to go. You can have an instance come automatically connect to it. It doesn't mitigate that application load time, but it will mitigate the like allocation of resources load time on AWS's side. But as most customers will know, having anything over provisioned on a cloud will cost you significantly more money because it removes that ability to scale up and down to zero and on demand, because basically you're paying for those AWS resources around the clock as you need them.
And speaking of cost, I know there's options for operating systems. We could use Windows, we could use Linux, and then there's also different clouds. How does that all factor into cost? Does it make a difference, or what do you think?
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference. So like just the difference between the same type of GPU between Linux and Windows on, say, AWS has a 20 cent-ish cost difference last time I checked. So it takes a like 51-cent GPU up to a 70-something cent GPU to move from Linux to Windows. So it's definitely more expensive to support like a Windows offering compared to a Linux offering. But also like different clouds have different cost models. So CoreWeave try to like undercut the larger clouds, and their pricing of their GPUs is significantly cheaper than that of AWS. And yeah, it definitely makes a difference when you're talking about scaling up your applications to the hundreds and thousands of users, because like every new user connection is costing you money.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know you go or TensorWorks goes long back with CoreWeave. So do we. It's so cool seeing how they've grown it. Um,
Yeah.
but in terms of hundreds of thousands, would you typically recommend like a Linux deployment for that, or just totally depends? You would have to depend on the client and their use case, or do you think we have to be at Linux at that point?
In general, I'd recommend Linux where possible. Like if your application like doesn't have a hard dependency on like some Windows third party piece, like if you can move to Linux, you will have a better experience with pixel streaming in terms of um, having a faster spin up time and a more cost effective instance, particularly when you're working at scale. So yeah, I agree. It should be Linux if you're looking to do any sort of meaningful scale and you don't have a hard dependency there.
Right, right. And I feel like we all kind of know the future of the cloud is going to be Linux. So sometimes we stream Unreal Engine applications, but we can also stream sort of the editor as well. So can you share just a little bit about editor pixel streaming and what does it do?
Yeah, for sure. So this is something that the team at TensorWorks has like collaborated with Epic Games on. It's like an experimental feature currently in the 5.1 release to be able to stream the editor. So basically, this sort of use case would be especially great for anyone wanting to do sort of like remote teaching or remote like pairing and debugging, and like basically just any remote working with Unreal Engine in collaboration in general.
Awesome, awesome. And I know one of the things that even I kind of scratch my head on sometimes is, what's the difference between me working in the editor and also streaming a built application? Because
Yeah.
it's all Unreal Engine, or what's the difference?
Yeah. So with streaming like a built application, that's basically just streaming your game, whatever it is that you've got in your application, which is obviously really useful. You can ship something that's like highly optimized, an ideal experience, but it's not necessarily ideal for, say, content creation. Whereas if you're streaming the editor, you get to stream like the whole power of the Unreal Engine, multiple windows, basically all that sort of stuff. So it really enables you to do remote collaboration with someone else about what you're actually seeing in your editor window, and being able to like work side by side basically as though you were next to each other on the same Unreal editor piece.
Got it. So I can be a developer in the United States working on a laptop. So there's no possible way this thing could actually run the editor locally. And you could be in Australia working on, I don't know, another laptop, and we'd be able
Mm-hmm.
to collaborate in real time because
Mm-hmm.
the editor is actually running in the cloud and then maybe on AWS or CoreWeave, and then it's being streamed. Is that
Yeah,
kind
so
of
like you've you've touched on one of the like really big differences between the like application streaming and the editor streaming piece, and that's like the size of the editor is very large. So we have to be pretty clever about how like we're deploying that out, particularly in the cloud. And like that can take the form of like warm instances and over provisioning and stuff like that, just to be able to accommodate the size of the editor compared to like a pixel streaming application, which is, as I said, usually like highly optimized, and you've cut it down to as like lightweight as it can possibly be to still deliver the optimum experience for your customers as well. So that is one of the big challenges associated with editor streaming.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I didn't even think of it. And I don't even know how big, UE 5.1 is. It's a couple hundred gigs at least, and that's a good point.
Yeah.
So how am I going to carry that amount of data around everywhere? It's a lot easier just to put it in the cloud.
Yep, for sure. That studio in the cloud workflow is absolutely like what we're hoping to support with the edited streaming piece.
Cool. And then, just to think about, maybe the long-term plan or the future, do you think streaming will grow beyond just streaming the Unreal Engine to other types of applications? Or do you think, or what could the long-term vision be?
Yeah, it's definitely something that we can see being a long-term vision for streaming in general. So obviously pixel streaming is great. It enables people to interact with these really large Unreal Engine projects, be able to stream them in real time, high fidelity. But like looking past that to really lean into the studio and the cloud example would be to be able to support generalized application streaming as well. So that would be basically allowing them to stream any desktop traditional application via the clouds to enable this remote collaboration.
Yeah. So what that means for me, or what I'm picturing, is I've got my laptop and I click on a 3ds Max icon on my laptop and it opens and runs, and I've got this huge scene open and it's running seamlessly, but none of it's running locally. It's all in the cloud.
Yeah,
And then I switch
yeah,
over to the editor, or is that kind of where your head's at, or what you're
yeah.
thinking?
That's what we're thinking. So the streaming part is the like foundation of it, being able to stream it via the cloud. But all of the things that will make that experience like ideal for a user is for it to feel seamless compared to interacting with like a traditional desktop application. For it to be able to enable things like shared storage for remote sessions or like uh, session sharing and different user permissions and stuff like that. So basically, just giving you all of the like tools that you could possibly need to be able to collaborate remotely via the cloud, as well as the like seamless user experience that you're used to in terms of working off a desktop.
And do you ever have any thoughts or opinions on streaming to other devices like a headset, or I don't know, whenever Apple finally releases their glasses? Um, what do you think about streaming in that kind of context?
Yeah, it's definitely like an exciting use case that's seeing like there's some like big people pushing on it in the field that are pretty keen on making like streaming to different like VR headsets or like uh, iPads and stuff like that
Yeah,
of reality.
yeah. And another hot topic that's everyone's talking about today is artificial intelligence. So I got to ask you, do you ever see SPS merging with artificial intelligence in any kind of way, or how those two technologies or ideas could work together?
It definitely could work together in the future. It's not something that we have like any customers currently like working with. We don't have any like AI customers currently using SPS, but that's not to say that it's not possible.
Yeah, yeah, I wonder because I mean, even we're starting to see, some people integrating Chat GPT with a metahuman, and so now you can make a digital replica of someone and talk to them.
Yeah,
So who
yeah,
knows?
particularly in the metaverse
Oh,
space.
I know. It's always interesting to see how creative people can be. Um,
Yep.
well, cool. So, any other thoughts around scalable pixel streaming? Who would be a good fit for SPS? Like yeah, who's well suited for it?
Yeah. Yeah, so currently SPS is in like a closed beta on AWS and CoreWeave, and this is just whilst we like prove out our product before we can take it to a full launch. Currently, the ideal customers that we're looking for SPS, and this like will continue into full launch, is someone that is wanting to manage their own cloud infrastructure. So they don't need to have a deep level understanding of Kubernetes and stuff like that, but they do need to have like a willingness to want to um, manage all of their own AWS like bills and infrastructure themselves. So basically, SPS is it just comes up as an additional line item in your given cloud infrastructure. So you've got the flexibility to choose exactly what GPUs you want to run it on, exactly how many instances you want to use, like on a single GPU if you're using multi-tenancy, how much over provisioning you want or don't want in a given like session, all that sort of stuff. So basically, it's someone that has the expertise in-house to be able to manage their cloud infrastructure, but also has that the expertise to build and create their own real applications. And then what Scalable Pixel Streaming does it handles the rest. It makes sure it deploys it out at scale. It cleans it up as needed, all that sort of stuff.
Hmm. And so I guess it helps ensure that we're not running every GPU 24/7. Is that one of the aspects of SPS?
Yeah, it definitely is. So, like, unless you wanted to run every GPU 24/7, if that was your use case, it absolutely supports that. Just turn on over provisioning and you're good to go. But let's say that you don't want to accrue cloud costs around the clock, you can definitely set it up to scale up and down on demand as each new user connects.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, it's very exciting. It's always a pleasure getting to connect with our friends in Australia. Sarah, thank you so, so much for your time today. Best way to reach you and your team at TensorWorks?
Yeah, so in terms of like TensorWorks, you can access us via the website. It's just tensorworks.com.au. Same with Scalable Pixel Streaming. If you're interested in getting involved, if you want to join the beta, you can reach out to us via like scalablestreaming.io. We also have a Discord server that we'd love for people to join. We typically get like conversations going in the public channel around like different use cases for pixel streaming, what sorts of like features and things like that could be good in the future. So absolutely join our Discord too.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you again, Sarah, so much for being with us. I'm Quentin Anderson. This is Real Time Talk with Eagle 3D Streaming. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and we will catch you on the next show. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
And